Hey, buddy. Happy, what's today? Thursday. It's a rainy Thursday here in Austin, but welcome to the Mondo Happy Hour. We are going to sit and chat tonight with the man of the hour, Mr. Rory Kurtz. I'm joined here by my Mo and Curly, Mr. Rob Jones and Mitch Putnam here. But Rory, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. Happy Thursday.
Yeah. How you holding up, man? With everything going on, how are things? How's the world and the life treating you?
That's a loaded question.
Cool. We'll say we're good. Everybody's good.
Is this normally how your studio looks? Because it looks like the character from the Mist's studio with just the singular painting in the background.
Isn't the character in the Mist? Is he based on Drew Struzan?
Yes.
Yeah. Drew even. I think Drew painted
Rory's head though. So.
I think Drew painted the gunslinger portrait that Thomas Jane's character is working on.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the film.
And
Thomas Jane is like holding like a little cloth up to the canvas, just sort of gently dabbing a spot in a really artisty way, you know.
Did you watch?
He did a lot of research for that role. He went deep.
Well, let some people file in here, but I see some comments coming in the chat. How's everyone doing? How are you guys? Matt, our old buddy Worang, Max Keller, Tim Petites, Lavender's here. Oh, Shannon. Yes, I did make myself Larry. And obviously Rob is Mo and Mitch is Curly.
I don't know what that means.
You know what it means.
But yeah, cool. Well, we're here to talk with Rory. Today we released a beautiful poster for a movie called Parasite that Rory did the artwork for. And it's available right now as a timed edition at mondoshop.com. If you feel like checking it out, you can look at Instagram or anything like that. But it is a awesome poster. And we wanted to sit down and just have a conversation with Rory and talk about that, talk about some of the past works that he's done with Mondo and just kind of see where the conversation takes us. But yeah, thank you for everybody for joining. And let's get started. Rory, what's sort of your history with Parasite? How did you kind of, when did you first see it and reactions and all that?
I didn't see it before. I don't think I saw it before the Academy Awards. I know Bong Joon-ho's work from before. I had seen a couple of his films. And then I think Mitch was the one who tipped me off and was like, hey, do you want to do the poster for this? And I'm like, I got to see it first, you know? And
Mitch tipped you off to Parasite, not the rest of the world.
I wasn't plugged in, man.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not I wouldn't say up until then I was a big Bong fan. You know, like I had seen Snowpiercer and The Host, and I've enjoyed, both of them, but I don't know if it was that style of storytelling. Like I couldn't follow it, or like I couldn't get invested in it. It was like this odd mix of like surreal and zany and, especially with like Snowpiercer, I didn't know if I was watching an action film or a dystopian science fiction film or a weird kind of comedy. So it just took me a while to get into the zone and understand his style of filmmaking. But I watched Parasite then, and that I got right away. That was pretty straightforward, man. That was gripping every step of the way.
Yeah, Parasite kind of had that same, like you were saying, kind of couldn't get your grasp or your handle on the tone. Initially, when I saw the first trailer, I thought it was going to be a horror film, and was completely kind of felt like the rug had been pulled under me when I was watching it, and it was quite funny, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
There's a lot of like kind of black comedy elements to it. So
I'd say the movie. Film. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I think that's pretty common. I'm not muted. I think that's pretty common with a lot of Korean genre films. Even his other work, The Host, has got a lot of comedy in it, and a lot of these really serious horror genre movies from Korea have even some slapstick comedy in them. It's kind of the mix that they're used to over there.
The Host was straight up slapstick.
Don't you feel like Ari Aster's films have a little bit of that as well?
A little bit, but yeah, and most of the, a lot of that mix that I'm talking about has been established in Korea for quite a while, and so yeah, I have no doubt that American genre filmmakers are taking some of that.
Just realized I'm gonna pull up. Rob, do you mind pulling up Parasite? Let's get it on screen while we're actually chatting about it.
I can do that. No, I cannot.
Rob, you worked all day on this. Come on, where's it at?
Man,
Let's shut some comments out.
yeah. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. One second.
Well, Rory, you killed it. You really did, man.
Thank you.
House is full of Rory Kurtz art. Oh, you're
Wait,
always
somebody-
getting some
wait.
fame here.
Somebody has an interesting question. Why can't we order 2 timed prints of it at the same time? Do we accidentally have a limit of 1 on?
I'm not for that. If we
I
can
hope, I
sell more
hope
than
not.
one,
I
yeah,
hope
we
we don't.
shouldn't.
should be able to order as many as you want.
I hope
For
we
the
don't.
We
time-
can order a couple dozen just to test it and make sure it works. All sales are fine.
Yeah, for the timed, it'll be all right. If there's any restriction there, we will change that. Thank you for calling that out. Hey, Aaron, how are you? Miss you and Jeremy, man.
Hi, Aaron. Hope you guys are all right after the whatever that word is, the storm that happened there. Derico.
Rob, how are we looking?
We're looking terrible, man.
What happened, Rob? What happened,
You
Rob?
had
Give
it
us
up.
the-
I
Rob,
had it
right
up.
before,
I thought,
Dude, we can reenact it. We can reenact it.
yes.
Eric, you be the people under the table.
All three
Mitch
of
and
them?
I'll be the lovers on the couch. You know, like it's just sitting it's that way. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, some
but we
folks
can
in the
also
chat
talk
are
about how we
saying-
first came across Rory. How about that? How about tell the origin story a bit?
We just told the origin story. Here,
No, I'm talking about as far as doing the how we hired him for what work we found of his Rolling Stone, I believe.
well, that's in your presentation.
I'm just trying to buy time, man.
It's we were just looking at it right before. I'm just curious.
It's not loading all of them up. I don't know what's going on, but
Hmm.
that's always anytime that there's public viewing in a computer, something invariably goes wrong for me. Sorry.
Mitch, reiterate us with the origin story of us and Rory.
Yeah, I noticed Rory's work somewhere on the internet. I can't remember exactly where.
I sent it to you.
Okay. Actually, yes,
You
that's
did.
exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. You sent it for OMG posters.
Yeah.
Your David Bowie illustration, right? Was that the one it was?
Yeah, and you had ran some other stuff, but by that point I had already sent you a few things and asked if you would help me spread the word because I was just getting started in that sort of arena of selling art prints and whatnot, and you very kindly helped out.
And then what happened internally was I told other people in the company about it, and then you worked on kind of a design services job with Jay Shaw before we got into the first sort of stream
one
print.
day since yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we started with The Graduate, which of course was an awfully big introduction.
No, we started with Captain America.
Oh, wow.
Remember? Yeah, that
Wow.
was it was SCCC 2016 or 17, I can't remember. And it was the same year you had Stan and Vince do a cap at the same time. So we both had
Okay.
like
We're
dueling
running
caps.
our load too early. Let's go and get first into Parasite. Those are all part of the slides. Sorry. Go ahead. Oh, God. There you go. Here's Parasite. And there's the God bless America. I hate life.
It's real casual Thursday. It's all good.
And there's
We're chilling.
the variant which caused so much fleur. And there are the original
Brouhaha.
ones, which were oddly pitched in the original colorways that we wound up with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before we get into too much like origin story stuff, I'd love to sort of dig more into this Parasite poster because to me, what's interesting about this poster is this poster is like self-torture. Look how many different levels of surfaces and perspective issues and etc. you took on here. How much actual like mathematical figuring did you have to do to pull this off?
A bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, fortunate, and I'm still really low tech with that. I use the line tool in Photoshop a lot to work out perspective. I know
Okay.
there are 3D programs. Daniel Danger's been trying to help me a little bit with his suggested one he's been working on lately. And so I'd like to take it to the next level a little bit. But with this, like, I'm just sourcing together photographs and then using the line tool in Photoshop to sort of carry on perspective and create all the crisscrossing planes, you know. And
I
then
want to call out real quick. We're looking at the sketches, right, or the color roughs at the moment.
Yeah.
And so again, right here we have kind of Rory's color rough, and then on the right are the final pencils.
And that's that's the first thing I sent Mondo. Like there was no thumbnail before that. I think that was the first one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This is essentially
like.
Yeah, I was going to say this is essentially the level of roughs that Rory will send over. So as you can see, it's a pretty clear as day. You know, you can see what this thing's going to look like and how great it's going to be. And there was no other sketches. You know, I wish we had kind of other takes or concepts that we could share. But honestly, Rory sent this over.
I've got a bunch of crappy sketches I never sent you guys.
I don't even seen them. But the thing is,
I got a policy against that. Like I don't want to send an idea that I wouldn't want to actually paint, because these things take months to reach completion. You know how painfully slow I am, and like
that's a wise policy. Yeah,
that's a good lesson, because we've learned in this job, the one that you don't want them to pick, they always pick, and they could be anybody, right? Whether it's us or a studio, and so that's a really good lesson. But yeah, it's funny because studios get confused, because we sent in these sketches, and I remember Neon being like, yeah, you might need to work on one of these likenesses a little bit. And I was like, this is a sketch. Like, this is a rough. And then they were like, okay, we're good.
I face that problem a lot.
That's also when you take something to this final, it makes it easier to sell to the client. Way easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because like you said, like it's easier to sell the client because it illustrates more what they're going to get at the other end. But when you send it in, like I take it like 50% of the way there, and some clients that might not be used to the process see it, and they assume that must be the finished copy. And if you look at it as a finished work, you see a lot of flaws in it. I mean, like there's a lot of weak spots that need to get worked out, and so their first thought is like, it's okay, but maybe he should refine a little bit, and it like they don't understand that it's just the first stage,
You do a lot to try to prevent that. Like you make sure you title your submission rough with like
knock up one.
So people know that this is not intended, and yet it still doesn't matter. They'll still say that.
They'll still make that mistake, sure.
But this is beautiful because it just leaves no room for their mind's eye to start filling in the blanks and then become potentially disappointed when you do turn in something that's closer to final. To have something this.
Yeah, and when we've handed in finals at the other end of a lot of the posters we've done together, they go through no problem. And I think it's because we do lay out so much in the mock-up that there's no surprises for the client when they get the final in hand. They're pretty much just getting a very polished version of what they've already seen, so we don't reach a lot of hang-ups on the shape of someone's head or how big the spaceship is, or what have you.
Somebody just commented that they're glad that we made it timed because it would have been major butthurt. Fun fact, we were not actually planning on it being timed. Neon requested it being timed because they were kind of like, this film is sort of exiting its major promotion cycle. We would love to make a big poster that's like, for lack of a better word, the final word poster-wise on this poster, and really pump it out and do it timed. And we didn't know what to expect. And a little behind the scenes, this poster's doing very well. So you're probably right. The butthurt would have been real, and we would have really shot ourselves in the foot.
And I fought it with you, Mitch. I remember texting you a couple of times, like, we shouldn't do it timed. We should do it limited edition. Like, it's an independent film. It's not going to have the allure of the Avengers. Like let's. And you were like, no. I believe in it. It
is Best Picture. I mean,
Rob believed in it Rob. There's a lot of bad Best Pictures.
This isn't Tom Jones. Come on.
You put out the
world in 80 days. This is a Best Picture we all watched and all loved. That's different from.
Yeah, Braveheart won Best Picture, for fuck's sake. It's not, that's not necessarily, a badge, but you're right. Yeah, it was.
Wait, did you say Braveheart?
Well, I'm saying, like, if you're going to say, it won Best Picture, so it's bona fide.
Yeah.
You get your flukes in there.
Braveheart's still a great movie. It's just there's other reasons why that's not a good poster to make right now.
Or what about Crash?
Whatever.
Yeah, Crash is not a great movie, but it's certainly in better social standing than Braveheart right now.
Yeah.
And that was the alternate colorway, too, that we did not make.
Where'd Hey Rory, where did the sort of the idea to frame the scene this way come about? Because this is not a one for one. Like that's not what the house looked like, or the way the furniture is positioned, or anything like that. But like, I love the composition and the way it kind of flows, and just like that complete, like the accuracy and the cropping of the table. That way, it goes all the way to the edge of the poster, so there's a clear dividing line, between the family, between the two class systems or whatever. But like, where did that all come into play as far as just like laying out the poster compositionally?
Dude, a lot of you get lucky sometimes, with it's always a crapshoot, like when, especially with composition, like especially for a piece like this where it's, somewhat photorealistic, or it's meant to be portrayed realistically. You're sourcing reference material from film stills and promotional images, and thumbnails and portraits you find, on the internet, and you're just sort of cutting things together and seeing what composition you can make work with the pieces you have. So I got lucky in that I found a great photograph of that coffee table. And that coffee table, to me, was great symbolism in the film. And I'm sure the director probably thought about that. It was actually constructed for the film specifically. It wasn't, sourced from somewhere. The director had it made.
Oh, wow.
And the different levels to it and the different types of wood used in it, I think, said something about the film, and that it had these multiple levels, and that, the characters would hide under it at some point, or would sit on top of it at other points. And I just thought it was a really great metaphor for the story. And I thought that scene where the family's hiding under the table, was sort of the penultimate scene in that film. Like, it kind of told the whole story in 5 minutes. You could have just seen that scene, where the father's under the table. I'm spoiling some stuff, but I assume people have seen it. And the husband on the couch is talking about his smell. The sort of old, radish smell.
It's
or
heartbreaking.
Whatnot, Yeah. And you see that the dad under the table in front of his kids, being shamed like that, and trying to hold in those emotions. It was all, like I said in the write-up, it was a complicated series of things being expressed in that film. And the characters have a really complicated relationship with each other, both as a family unit and then between the Parks and the Kims. And I just thought these divisions worked really well to sort of lay out the dividing lines between everybody and where they fell in the social structure and where they fell in the story and their comfort level with each other. And like I said, with the Parks family, there's sort of obliviousness, to this poor family working together to sort of deconstruct their life. It's just, sometimes you kind of get lucky pushing through all the material, and I found the right pieces where I could actually make the concept happen the way I saw it in my head. That's not always the case. You've seen other mock-ups I've sent for other films where like the idea was there, but you don't have the right material to support the idea. You can only do so much with models at home and, Photoshop cutting together montages, like you're sort of limited to a degree. No, I'm just babbling, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and just having these on screen and staring at them while you're talking, again, I'm just kind of lost, like Mitch was saying, in the perspective, because you have so many different, complicated uses of perspective here. And someone in the chat had commented earlier about you just kind of nailing many likenesses on the poster, and that's kind of something you don't really do traditionally in a lot of your posters, I guess Baby Driver excluded, but you nail just all the likenesses at odd angles, like the father underneath the table is just that's kind of an awkward angle to draw somebody, and it's perfect. And yeah, everything is just so clean and modern. And I do want to focus in and zero in a little bit on the title treatment. There's a couple questions in the chat coming in about that as well. If you can speak to that a little bit. And that is curious as well, because for folks that are unaware, and usually Rory, not to out you, but you'll kind of ask us like, hey, if you guys have any ideas for a title treatment, or like with help laying anything out. But this one was completely all you.
Son of a bitch. I have never asked for help.
but this one, was all you, and you did a great job kind of choosing this, that fits perfectly with everything that's kind of modern, mid-century modern, like kind of look to it. And it's perfect. So if you can talk a little
the
bit
choice
about
to
that.
have Parasite sort of work at an angle along the coffee table, was worked out immediately in the mock-up. It was the first thing I did with the title treatment, was have it push across that plane, parallel to the coffee table. And then it just stuck. I'm like, no, that works. I'm just going to leave it. And it stayed there from start to finish. And so fortunately, you guys let me do that. Type is always tricky.
No, you nailed it, man.
Somebody asked earlier too, why versus the sketch we put credits up top. That was a mandate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Likewise, so was the choice to use the official title treatment for the Korean language version. That's their title treatment. And then I actually
think that turned out pretty great, though.
Yeah.
I have no problem with their Korean title treatment compared to some title treatments we get stuck using.
Yeah, when I had laid out the English language version, when I had fallen really in love with the shape and size of that text, and it's sort of unified planes on the top and the bottom, and so I struggled trying to find a Korean language version that I felt mirrored that as well as the English one. So, at first I was put off, and the studio was like, "No, we want you to use ours," but then I was grateful that it sort of took that off my plate, and that wasn't something I had to worry about anymore. I just sort of surrendered to using theirs and fell in love with it along the way.
Y'all want to switch and talk about some other stuff? Maybe Clockwork Orange?
Yeah. Let's talk about Clockwork Orange.
All right.
I think Clockwork Orange is interesting because it represents the other half of your work. To me, you have two pretty distinct ways that you approach a film. You're either depicting something that happened in the film, or you're taking a complete sort of non-literal metaphorical approach to a film.
Conceptual, yeah.
Yeah, and this, to me, this and The Graduate both sort of are the ones that show this method more. How do you decide when you're going into a film whether to go straight forward or to go with completely off the wall imagery?
I think you could lump Annihilation in with that too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think it falls in with those really well. That'd be a nice series. Put Annihilation next to Clockwork. It's a mystery. Like when you're working in the studio, personally, I feel abject terror. Like when you guys throw a title at me and set me to work on it, like, all right, how am I going to get an idea for this poster, and how am I going to try and wrap up this film all in one go? And so the first thing you feel is terror. And then the second thing I feel is, motivated to get in there and start tearing into it. And you just throw everything at the canvas and you just see what starts to work. It's rare that, I see a film and an idea jumps out right away. And then it's like, all right, that's the idea. There you go. Here's a submission. Let's get it done. Most of the time it's like I'm working endlessly in the studio through all sorts of roughs and concepts, trying to find the thing. Like with Clockwork, I was working with pictures of McDowell's character over and over and over again, trying to find a portrait that hadn't been done to death already. And the more I saw the eyelash and the bowler hat, and the white jock, I'm just like, we've seen this so many times, like it's not going to be interesting. And this was one of my first posters with you guys. So I was trying to find something that we hadn't seen before. And then Vanessa and I both sort of really fell in love with this idea of the milkmaid. And it's trial and error, and you're removing all the ideas that don't work until you find the one that does. And yeah. I don't think I set out in the beginning to go conceptual or narrative or illustrative, at all. I think that just sort of develops as you try different ideas to find the best, the best approach to it.
Well, yeah, this one was really early on in our kind of projects together, probably within the first like 3 or 4. And the original release was at Mondocon. It was a screening at Mondocon, and And that's one of my favorite Mondocon memories is after we do a screening, then we'll kind of reveal the print nice and grand on the big screen. And when we put this on screen and it's just sort of the audible gasp from everybody in the theater, it was like one of my favorite memories from
we should do more erotic art like this. Like I never do that eroticism, but that actually, let's get away with more of that.
I will say the interesting thing about this being so early in our working together, I can't stress enough how rare this is, right? For this to be somebody's number 2 poster. I can't stress enough how rare this is.
I pulled my hair out over this one. I remember going to sleep next to Vanessa one night, and I was wound up tight as hell, and I'm just like, this poster's awful. I'm failing on this, and this is my second Mondo poster. I don't want to screw this up, and it's just terrible, and the whole thing's going to be, terrible and whatnot. But as it got closer and closer to the finish, it started coming together better and better.
I'm just so thrilled you didn't do Malcolm McDowell. I was amazing at that.
And here's another insane thing. Not only that you were at this level on your second poster, when you started working with us, I'm going to blow people's minds right now. When you started working with us and doing posters like this, how long had you been doing illustration?
Maybe 5 years.
Exactly. That is insane. But for some background, before this, Rory was a photographer.
Yes. However, I had been drawing since childhood. I just never.
Sure.
Yeah,
but it wasn't your trade.
I didn't think it was viable as a career.
Yeah, I've been drawing since childhood too, Rory, and I can't draw hands like that. Give me a break. I have all the childhood practice, so I don't know what.
But the editorial stuff I've probably worked with Rolling Stone a dozen times by that point.
Sure.
And I worked with a lot of advertising clients and whatnot, but I just don't think anybody in the poster community knew at all what I was doing or cared. But I knew about the poster community years earlier. I've been following you guys since day one. I remember when those Ali Moss Star Wars dropped, and being crazy about Mondo and that whole community.
You came in pretty on the level with the Mondo scene. You were you knew everything that was going on, and you were excited to meet the other artists, and that was cool.
Big time. That first time I showed up at Mondocon, I think that was Mondocon 3, and Mitch, you were walking me around with Eric, and you were introducing me to Matthew Woodson and Ken Taylor, and it was blowing my fucking mind, man, to be in the same room with those guys, Yeah,
I remember hanging out.
Blown away by their art.
I remember hanging out late into the night because Mitch always does all of his booth setup the hour before.
Yeah.
But we were hanging out the night before, and Mitch was setting up the booth and folding shirts, and we were just sitting there talking shop, and you really wanted to do a couple posters that we were like, let's focus on some other ones first before we maybe get there.
Yeah.
Lady Hawk was
easy, buddy.
But no, it was great.
I was sitting there while Mitch and the Vacuum were putting together the final touches for their booth that night that you're talking about. And Joao Rouse was sitting right there. Yeah, drawing at a table. I'm just like,
well, that was the Mondocon, I think that was the year that we had released Joel's Thin Red Line as well. So I remember you walking around the show floor and kind of taking you to the Mondo booth, and you just losing your mind at Joel's Thin Red Line as well.
So I've got all those posters now. I bought, and in fact, at that Mondocon, a fan came up with his Alien private commission and had him sign this private commission, and I'm like, where did that come from? I haven't seen that released anywhere. And I immediately went home and dug through every name I knew on Facebook in the collector group to find somebody who had a copy of that. And some guy had it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll give it to you, but I want 4 APs from you in the future. My choice." He's like, "I want golden tickets. I want to be able to get whatever APs I want." And at that time, I'm like,
"What was his name? Whipple still
take 4, take 5. I'll throw in an OG too. I'll give you an original sketch." And he's like, "Cool." 5 years later, I'm still paying him off.
It is weird to think back on those old Mondocon moments because it didn't seem crazy at the time, but you're right. Like nowadays, it is crazy that Joao was here and just sitting at a table drawing. I remember, was it Mondocon 1, Eric, when Aaron Horkey was sitting in the middle of the front room where there was a crowd, and he was just sitting there drawing for people, and people were like giving him gifts and stuff.
The pop-up commission like that he was just doing.
As time has gone on, that stuff is rarer and rarer.
I was asleep upstairs, and then Horkey came in to finish drawing the commissions, woke me up, went back to sleep. Then I woke up again when they were showing Texas Chainsaw Massacre directly downstairs below. There are all these screams and like live music. Ugh.
Oh, so meanwhile, while we're chatting here, we have some alternate sketches for Rory's Wall-E.
Oh, I like that one on the left.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That moment where they're holding hands for the first time.
There've been so many sweet moments though, like that. I think you were wise when you pitched the robot melee.
Yeah, well, at that point, I had done quite a few melancholy sort of pieces, and I thought, kind of try something a little different this time.
There's my grand piece of art direction here, which was, hey, we already have Wall-E on here twice. Let's take it off once.
Not a fan of the redundant. Yeah.
By Eliza, beautiful, beautiful poster. And not, again, what's important, I think, just like Clockwork Orange, not a poster I've ever seen for Wall-E. Again, everyone keeps doing the fire extinguisher in space.
I like that accent.
Going Corton. When did Drive fall into it? Was that the third poster?
Dude, I did all four of those before my first Mondocon with you guys. I handed in Drive like 3 days before I flew down to Austin to go meet you guys for the first time. And by then you had already released Captain America, and you had Clockwork Orange and The Graduate ready to go for Mondocon. And then I submitted Drive, and I got on a plane like 3 days later. So yeah,
that is a McConaughey year. That was a good year of Rory Kurtz output.
I've never put out for a year since. I keep trying, but
that's hard. I mean, I think what happens is there seems to be a natural progression in sort of an artist's career where when you start out, the output's really high, but then later, as you get, I guess, bigger, the pressure starts to be so high that you spend more and more and more and more time on each poster. And that's happened to virtually everyone that's become sort of a big name in posters. Is you have your Tyler Stouts and your Mark Nansons and your Rory and all these people that once they get to a certain point, they're putting out, 2-3 posters a year because they're spending 3 months on them because the wolves feast on whether it's good or not the minute it comes out.
Thank God,
and the paydays get a little better too, and that doesn't hurt. That does hurt actually the quantity probably.
Well, plus you're trying to top yourself at the end of the day. Like you're doing it for you still, And Rob, I'm sure feels the same way. You make your posters, you're making them for you first, and then hopefully everybody else likes it too. But like, if you don't like it, it's not worth it,
I do make
But Anson was saying a lot of that same stuff on.
Mitch?
Yeah, Anson was saying a lot of that same stuff too. Just that his biggest challenge is challenging himself, and feeling another big pressure that he has is feeling like he needs to sort of live up to the film. And so I think also as you get bigger and bigger assignments, it's more pressure to sort of do the film justice. All these things just equal into a recipe of your favorite artist no longer doing 6 posters a year eventually.
Yeah. And I mean, I try to subsidize that by doing a lot of other stuff on the side. I mean, I know there are some artists who are just killing it and just releasing a poster a month and they're all great, I can't keep up with that. Yeah. So, but then I release, there's a clay stuff, and I'm still working for ad agencies doing, official stuff for movies. And then I'm doing the little drawings and the 5x7s and so I'm always trying to still be putting work out there, but especially with the Mondo stuff that you guys let me do, I want each one to still be special. I don't want to hand in something forgettable that's like, oh, it's just filler. Rob told me that. I don't know if you remember, Rob, but it was one of our first time hanging out. I was on your balcony at one of your backyard parties, and I was sort of picking your brain, what should I watch out for? And you were You know, and he just said to me, like, don't phone it in. Don't ever phone it in. He's like, a lot of guys start out good, and then eventually they just start phoning it in. You know, and I don't want to phone it in.
Yes, that was terrible advice.
Well,
they
you're
end up enjoying their lives. That's what happens.
You're doing a great job of not phoning it in. We're getting a lot of questions.
Good question. I want to know though. How long did it take you to this Good Omens piece? Wasn't that like crazily long? Because
the one on the left was only about a week and a half, and then the one on the right with the big group shot, that was on and off for months. You know, the approvals, because that was for Amazon, so that was the key art that had to be approved by a lot of the different actors, as well as Neil Gaiman. So it was a constant back and forth, change this and change that, and I think there's probably 20, 30 people in that poster. So, you know, like it was, it took months to get to the finish line on it.
Can you spill tea on anybody that was like hard to deal with for the project?
No,
I can't, but I did get to meet John Hamm, and that guy is so handsome, so smooth.
I imagine he is scarily handsome in person.
Oh my God, yeah. I went backstage at New York Comic Con to meet some of them in like a green room, and the door opened, and it was like David Tennant, Michael Sheen, Miranda Richardson, and John Hamm, sort of all just standing and chit-chatting. And like in the good-lookingness in the room, like when the door opened, it was like, it was a lot of...
Just from John Hamm. I think the rest of those folks were like terrible.
What was the... He was charming too.
What was the pressure level doing artwork that you knew ultimately was going to be in front of Neil Gaiman's eyes? You know, I assume you grew up being a Sandman fan and, you know, all of that stuff. Dude. So...
Yeah, it was on my top 10 list when I started illustrating like 10 years ago. I'm like, these are the things I want to work for the New Yorker. I want to do something official for Batman, and I want to work on a Neil Gaiman project, you know, and it just seemed like pie in the sky stuff. So I'd read all of his books, and so when Amazon called and they're like, do you want to do this? I'm like, are you kidding me? Hell yeah. And then they put me in front of him, and I was tongue-tied. Yeah.
Like, you got to meet him?
Yeah.
How'd it go? Tell me about this disaster. I always love hearing heroes. I met Jack Stanhope. It went badly. I regret it to this day.
No, I mean, it went well. I mean, he's a busy guy, and he was show running at that time, you know, and they were still, I think, still in production at that time. And we've been going back and forth over the artwork. So, you know, there had already been, you know, some conversations there. And I just got tongue-tied. It was pleasant and, you know, kind. And, you know, I don't have anything really to add to it beyond that publicly.
What do you have? There's a question here from Fernando. What work is left on the bucket list? Because you said, you know, you checked off Batman, you checked off Neil Gaiman. What else is there that you have yet to achieve?
Nothing. No, I did Batman. Thank you guys. I did the Dark Knight poster, so that scratched off the Batman thing. And then I did Good Omens, and I did a couple shows, a couple gallery shows, and I did some magazines that I had really wanted to do, the Rolling Stone and whatnot. And okay, maybe the cover of the New Yorker. That would have been awesome.
Sure,
but yeah, that's not going to happen. You know, Tomer gets all those. So
yeah.
You really have nothing left on the list?
No, at this point, dude, I don't mean that arrogantly. You know, like, I mean, there's still plenty higher levels of success many other artists have reached that I will never get close to. But I think but I satisfied the things that I wanted to do when I first started that were really important to me, you know, but they were all kind of empty. You know what I mean? Like, you do all those things and you meet those benchmarks and you look back and it's like, do I feel more fulfilled? Do I feel like a better artist for it? Not really. Yeah, I still feel like I have to prove myself every day, and I still have to sing for my supper. And, you know, it's not like because you scratch that stuff off your bucket list that you can die happy. You know, I think it just sort of left me in a place where I realized that the importance of the bucket list was never really there to begin with. It was always kind of an illusion.
I like your style. Don't tell the competition what licenses to buy. I like it. Lots of people asking questions about the 5x7 series. Do you want to kind of talk a little bit about how you got into that and sort of how that's been going?
Yeah, I wanted to bring some originals to Mondocon, and that just seemed like the right format for it. It was the right size so that I could get them done quickly. Of course, now they take more and more time anyways, because that's just the way it goes. You know, you get more involved with it. And I don't know, it's just a way to scratch an itch. I like doing portraits a lot, obviously. That's why I do so much of them in my posters. And the 5x7s was just a way to, in between projects, you know, relax a little bit at the end of the week. In the beginning, I was only doing them on Fridays, just sort of the end of my work week to relax. And I would do them live sometimes. I go on Instagram and I chit chat about the paper I was using and the graphite and, you know, different tips and tricks while I was doing it. And then I just got caught up in them and I started doing them, you know, a couple a week. And then it got a little out of control. And I had to like stop, you know, put the brakes on a little bit and get back to my posters and whatnot, because I was falling a little too in love with sitting quietly at a table working on these that nobody was asking for. Well, in the meantime, you know, there are clients that are waiting for projects. So I sort of slowed down a little bit. But as we get closer to the next Mondocon, you know, I'm certainly going to want to kick out a lot more of them. And now I maybe do 1 or 2 a month, and they're fun, they're sweet. And I put them in the collector group on Facebook, and people seem to like them. And there's no pressure. You're not trying to sell a whole movie in one picture. They're just a little love letter, you know, to a character.
I mean, to me, what's interesting about it is your poster work and your illustration work is so unbelievably modern and polished that if you only see that, you don't really know what an artist's traditional rendering skills are like with, you know, pencil or paint.
Yeah, people look at it, they're like, oh, it must be some kind of Photoshop filter.
Totally.
You know, like they don't think you can draw, you know?
And so I do think that what the 5x7 series has done is really shown that you have that side of your repertoire too, because there's tons of artists that run into this. You know, it's when you work primarily in a screen printed finished product, it's hard to tell how much drawing goes into it, right? I remember before Dan Black and Jess Siemens started selling their originals at shows, one of the things we talked about was taking more of their pencils and inks, because they have so much color work in their posters that the line work can get buried, you know, and it's hard to tell what the drawing and how much drawing is going into it. And I think that the 5x7 series has done a really good job of showcasing that for you.
Yeah, and people who thought that, like, I mean, I would get criticisms on likenesses, you know, that were, you know, like, oh, it's really great, almost too good, almost as though he's just using a filter.
Yeah,
you know?
tracing.
Yeah, though it couldn't be explained by the fact that I've been drawing for years. You know what I mean? If you put decades into anything, you know, you're gonna like. So I think if anything, the graphite drawings sort of show that, like, it's not computer wizardry. You know, it's just, you know, good old fashioned, you know, passion for the craft. You know.
Yeah. Somebody has a question: is Rory's work difficult to translate to screen print? Yeah, I would say it is, right? Like, we've got.
While Mitch is frozen, I will say when Rory first turned in Captain America.
You mind repeating, Mitch? You kind of broke out for a little bit.
Breaking up, man.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, you know, I think we've got it dialed in on this end, but 5 years ago, or taken most other places, I think it would be a real challenge to screen print his work. Again, props to Rory for figuring stuff out. Props to John Smith. Props to everyone involved. I mean, Rory is a perfect example of, like, Rory's work couldn't exist as a screen print when Rob and I got into screen prints. You know, like it just wouldn't.
Yeah, props to Edmondson too. I mean, he was looking over these files, especially Captain America as well. When that
we don't need Edmondson getting any more props or any bigger of a head than he already has. All right,
I owe it all to Edmondson. I mean, I think we all do.
The portrait that Rory drew of him was amazing. I mean, look how big. But that said, this Captain America, when it first got turned in, I believe it was something crazy, like 18 colors, and like 9 of them were peach.
Yeah.
Just for like skin tones. I was like, I think I can combine
Well,
12
it's
piece.
it's interesting you bring that up, right? Because yeah, Cap was, I think it did come in at Rob's right.
It was 18.
$18.
Yeah, it was
and
18 when I handed it in.
and Parasite today is going to be 10 colors for the
Yeah.
regular
This-
and 9
Nope.
for the
Yeah.
variant.
John got it down to 9.
This
Yeah.
motherfucker turning in his first poster at 18 colors.
Well, again, like I had the confidence of ignorance because I had no idea how many colors is normal. Nobody told me that. Like they just said, set your own work.
I think you knew it wasn't.
No, I had no idea.
Daniel Danger, and can I have 8 translucent whites for the mist?
At that point, it's like Rory and Struzen are like the two that are turning in 20 colored posters.
Needs to have a brushy quality.
I've only moderately gotten better at that. It's been a slow process.
Yeah, Paul, Parasite's going to be, I think the regular is 10 colors and the variant is 9 colors for Parasite.
John Smith.
John Smith is a wizard. We need to have John Smith on one of these if he wants to come on someday.
Should have John Smith versus Jason Edmiston.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
My money's on Edmiston.
And here's Roy's poster. Roy's poster for the best Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi.
Oh, I hope that's not real.
That's super real.
I thought
It's
it was my
super
favorite.
real. The Last Jedi
movie.
is the best poster. Is the best movie.
It is.
Of
And I do
any
think
Star
that we're
Wars
gonna
movie?
look back, and that will be a unanimous consensus.
Hold on. Of any Star Wars movie or of the modern ones?
Dude,
Of the modern one.
Of the modern.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
prequel. I would
Because
go
of any
like
Star Wars
between the
movie, we'll
prequels and the new
friendly.
one.
Episode
Okay,
like-
I was gonna say if you were claiming Last Jedi is better than Return of the Jedi, or
dude, way
Empire
better than
Strikes
Return of
Back.
the
It's better than Return. It's of like all Star Wars movies. It's like number
No,
2. But of
No,
modern,
no,
it's
Empire Strikes Back, Last Jedi. Eric
Yes.
knows.
Empire Stri- no, the whole first
Eric
trilogy
knows.
is. Listen, I don't even like the whole first trilogy, but they're better than Last Jedi. Come on.
No. Last Jedi has a complexity to it and an unexpectedness to it that neither New Hope or Last Jedi had. So yeah, I would put it above either A New Hope or Last Jedi. It sits right behind Empire Strikes Back.
Here's the thing, though. We shouldn't turn this into a debate about this, but here's the problem with the modern ones. I don't even know what happened in them. They're so forgettable. I could tell you beat for beat what happened in the original ones, and they're not even my favorite movies. They're okay.
Well, Mitch,
Well,
I'd like to say what happened in the modern ones, except I haven't watched the last Star Wars movie because I don't even care.
Well, the first one is
I
about
don't care what happened to any of these people.
the first one's about stealing a thumb drive and an email, isn't it? Force Awakens.
Yeah.
It might be his worst movie, but it's the best Star Wars movie. Which is
Yeah,
just
the last one was A Fight with Grandpa.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
All I know is they could have
I mean,
treated Luke with more respect. That's all I was hoping for. So
I
for a
thought
better
that-
ending for Luke.
Look at Eric not highlighting all these recent comments.
I'll highlight Miss for President 2020. Let's open up some questions to the chat. If anybody here has any questions for Rory, feel free to fire away. If you asked a question, drop it again so that we don't have to scroll all the way up. But yeah, let's get some questions going.
My nephew Hudson is watching this. He's 5 years old. And my cousin just texted me and said that he thinks I look like Doctor Strange.
I can see it.
I agree with the latter part.
Hi, Hudson.
Hi, Hudson.
Hi, Hudson.
He loves Marvel, loves Star Wars. I taught him how to do a force choke at Christmas. So he would come running from across the room, and I just hold out my hand, and he would immediately go to the ground and start clutching his neck, and then he'd get up and he'd get me with the force choke.
What's Eric drinking out of a tiki? Somebody wants to know. This is going to be a
Would you
great
like to
answer.
know?
This is going to be a great answer. It's
That's
going to
what
be water. I'm going to say water.
Rob, what
I'm
do you
guessing
think?
Gatorade or pickle juice?
Rory?
High C.
Ginger ale.
Oh!
Out of a
That's
tiki. We
close.
actually drink out of a tiki recreationally.
Just for the streams. It's
Yeah.
Just for the streams. T-shirts
for the-
available.
It's a special
Oh, we have the
occasion.
taste of a new generation.
special occasion drink.
No,
let's
we
hear-
can't speak. No, we can't speak more on why La La Land fell apart, and we wish it could happen, but it can't.
Ooh,
Next
nice
question.
rack on the screen.
I asked, they said don't.
Yeah, Rob asks like every week. So is there any way maybe we could talk to him again about live? We're like, Rob.
What's
Speaking of
the
which, we'll talk
process
about
of
something else,
offering? What's the process of offering Rory a project? Has he turned down any movies? Yes, he has. Mitch, do you want to talk a bit about the process? It kind of was, it's two different ways it can go.
Yeah,
Mitch, do you wanna-
sometimes it's Rory's idea, and other times it's always a discussion, right, Rory? Like whenever we decide on a film together, we always sort of talk through the pros and cons. It's not a straight, hey, here's your next job and here's how much it pays. It's always what would you think about this? How could we do it? It's usually a fairly lengthy discussion that we decide on together, I think.
Mhm.
Well, and I'm really grateful for the fact that, like, you guys have had ideas and set me to work on some things, and you recognize that, like, the work needs to be really strong when it comes out. And sometimes I work on a film, and we just can't come up with a strong enough idea to push forward with it. And instead of just steamrolling ahead on a mediocre concept, regardless, because, hey, we said we were going to do it, let's just get it out there. People want this or they want that, you guys have been very generous about, well, we'll table that and we'll try something else instead.
And that's really difficult on this end because A, anyone would kill for any poster by you. B, meaning like a publisher or a gallery. B, like it would sell better than 50% of the things we put out. So it is hard to say no to on this end, but we do feel like it's our responsibility to sort of make every project we do with you the best one that we could be doing together.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I don't want to hand in anything that's not Mondo quality,
That's one of my favorite parts about us working together, because like Mitch said, there is always a discussion. It's never just a, hey, do you want to do this? Like, you take time to step away and consider the pros and cons, and we discuss through it and say, like, is this the right path? And there's a curatorial, there adds a curatorial aspect to the projects that you choose, and it makes them that much more special because you put in the time and you care.
Well,
like
and
you
because
said,
we only do 2 or 3 posters together a year, like, it becomes important to make sure that each one of them is the right one, or at least as best as it can be.
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of talking
ever...
about timed versus limited and all that kind of stuff too, just to sort of, we also, neither side wants to be in a position where every poster we put out with Rory is timed or everyone is get. So a lot of what we talk about too is finding the balance between those two things.
I think probably the biggest
one. My stupid internet.
Probably the biggest one that we actually did a fair amount of work on. Originally, we had asked Rory to do Spider-Man: Homecoming whenever Spider-Man was entering the MCU. He did a couple rounds of sketches, and then at the end we just decided ultimately, like, it's not working. It's not forcing your peg in a round hole, and we didn't do it.
Well, and that was one of those where, there were some good ideas there that might have worked out, but the studio definitely had a direction that they wanted pursued, and I recognized that I wasn't the right fit for where they wanted to see it go. So you guys very graciously just sort of let me out of that, and I'm thankful for that, because I don't want to put out something it's already hard enough when I think the work I'm doing is good, and then of course everyone's like, oh, that one was terrible. It'd be impossible if I didn't even like it, and then it got put out there. Like, then nobody is, So,
I liked the poster. I thought it was a good idea. It was just the studio not liking it. We've brought it up privately.
I don't remember it.
I'll bring it up. Just give me a sec. Go ahead, talk about yourself.
But we, behind the scenes, another thing we worked on quite a bit back and forth was Blade Runner 2049, and
we have a dozen mock-ups for that.
Yeah, and we finally nailed one that we thought was good, and it's not being approved by the studio, but I've been trying to talk Rory into one of the other concepts. Eventually, we'll see.
I'll save Blade Runner for the next show, but there is the Spider-Man. The idea was that they wanted to show Brooklyn and New York at the same time, Manhattan at the same time.
and they wanted the Avengers Tower in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they wanted both Peter Parker and Spidey.
That last part, the Peter Parker and Spidey part, was like the last thing they piled on it, and that's when Rory, I think, finally went, "I'm out." And Anson was like, "I guess I can show some spiral stuff," but the idea of having the bus with the Brooklyn on the back, which was, I think, a later version, and then New York ahead of it, I thought you had a really great solution for what they were asking until they just kept piling on more and more stuff. They also asked if we had to include Ultra too, I believe, right?
Yeah. The only bittersweet. This thing is bittersweet because the only sweet thing about this is we did get the Anson poster, which really was again something to behold with that spiraling both characters into one. I think it postered them forward a little bit.
This is, I mean, and thankfully the studio had direction because that film hadn't come out yet when they had me working on it. It's like I hate shooting blind. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if it works for the tone of the film. Like you're just sort of working with the very limited photography they have to offer. So you just kind of do your best at it.
Love this Ex Machina poster. One of my favorites.
I think that one's underrated. I like that one a lot too.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of work going on in there. I don't envy you on that one either.
It's also great rated foil too.
Yeah, people had found a reference shots because this is a direct film still from the film.
Mm-hmm.
But in the film, you don't see any of her insides. Like it's all light reflected off of her glass body, and so it's basically unintelligible what's under there. So,
yeah, I mean, if anyone that thinks this was easy because it was a film still wants to try to recreate this and let me know how many hours it takes, I'm willing to listen.
It took me a month to come up with all that armor and all that.
Well, plus look at all the crazy tiles and shit in the background is insane too. I mean, that's
I remember whenever getting the email from you when you kind of had the breakthrough on how to capture that like webbing grid pattern of like her suit and just how to map that over her body. But like that was a really big, I mean, again, the detail when you look at that, it's just like Mitch was saying, like anybody just try it.
Try and find a way to do it as a screen print,
Yeah. Billy had a question. Our friend Billy Garrett. Hi, Billy Garrett. Curious if Rory could discuss the approach to colors for Parasite. So let's talk about the color palette that we landed on.
There was discussion with you guys a little bit about that too. You showed them the green one that was in there too earlier. I know I just wanted a really big burst of color, and I wanted two really strong contrasting options. So a decent cool and a decent warm color coming through the windows. So we had the green and then the fuchsia. But dude, I just got to put that blue in there somewhere. Like I love blue, so we wound up doing the variant with the blue instead of the green. But I just like the colors a lot, and the rest of it is pretty, explained in the film. So the wood tones on the floor and in the furniture, and the gray of the brushed fabric on the furniture, and then the pajamas and whatnot. So it was just packaged really well for us to just pick a single strong, bold color to put on the top, in the windows there. And and that's how we wound up there. I love pink. Obviously, I use a lot. I'm in a phase right now.
I was going to say both of these colorways are... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was pulling up another question. Any more Rory pieces this year? Yes.
I hope so.
Possibly sooner than you think, maybe?
Yeah, that's my hope.
If Rory can get his act together.
Whoa!
Just kidding, bud.
I have been working a lot slower during the quarantine.
No.
Really taken a hit on productivity, I think, across the board. It's hard.
Should we do a breaking teaser here? Should we have Rory show what his recent purchase was?
Can I show my recent purchase?
Yeah, why don't you show your recent purchase, and we'll just leave it at that.
Do I have a green light to do that?
Wait, hold on, Rob. Are you concerned?
No, I said very good. I'm impressed.
Okay. All right, let's see it.
Freaky Friday, you calling for the teases.
You just show what you bought, and we'll leave it at that.
I picked up a little something from Alter Ego Comics, one of my favorite. I'm going to give a plug right there to Alter Ego, one of my favorite comic shops.
Yeah.
And it just showed up today. And
all right.
I just need it for reference. for a project I have coming up.
We'll leave it at that.
So
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so we'll see where it goes. I'll also be eating cereal out of it tomorrow. So I'll do a live stream on Instagram.
How many helmets do you have, Roy?
That's my only helmet. That's my only pot. I also have replica lightsabers. I've got a lot of replica lightsabers in here right now. There's a stormtrooper over my shoulder.
No, do you have? I mean, it's helmets in general, not Star Wars helmets.
No, just that one.
Armor? You have any sort of like armor replicas?
No, I do have a collection of die-cast medieval armed characters that, you know, sit on a shelf, guard my book collection. But no actual armor pieces. It's hard to find good quality armor reproduction.
I found that too. No shit, right?
Yeah,
it's so tough.
It's all made in India, and it just falls apart, and you know it's not very attractive. It's hard to find really decent replica armor pieces. I mean, I've looked.
See if there's any other questions.
Challenge out there for folks.
You come to Mondo chats for the question: how many helmets do you have?
What do you want me to ask? What poster hasn't done yet?
No, it's a good question.
Do I have a sword, Rory?
He draws helmets all the time. I figured he might have a lot more for reference, maybe.
Yes, I do have swords. Actually, there are swords in this room right now. I'm a collector of a lot of nerd stuff. It's just my jam.
Whoa, how many swords?
Well, I have a swept hilt rapier in the corner, and then I have a wakizawa in the room. You know, so yeah, I've got a broadsword downstairs in the movie room. I'm a nerd, man. I just go for it. I'm all in.
Eric, I like that comment you just highlighted. It's a helmet.
There's some great questions there.
Oh, there's a good question. Does Rory have any Mondo prints?
Dude, I have so many. Like these flat files behind here aren't my art. Right? Those are Mondo posters I bought over the years. Yeah, I've got a lot of Mondo art. A lot.
Rory's legit. He's a legit fan and collector. Dude,
I was a collector long before I started working for him. So the first poster I got was Tomer's Melancholia.
Oh, nice.
I was all in after that.
Well, you've heard the famous Melancholia story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it should have been a nude.
Yeah, originally she was completely naked, and she was like, I don't know about that.
Balls for trying, though. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Swing big. Oh, dude, that's still such a gorgeous poster.
So then you had to draw the dress on after that.
Dude, like good posters just don't.
Oh, it is such a good poster.
It doesn't matter how far along screen printing as a process for making these posters has come. That's still a dope poster.
Oh, and also Tomer was the original hard to screen print artist in the day.
Yeah.
He would just do it in completely flat files and
Can you go back to the blue one again, Rob? The blue variant, the blue version. Look at that. And there's a pearlescent finish on those inks. I don't know if you remember that, but there's like a shimmery sort of tint to the blues. Dude, it's gorgeous on the wall. And
it's making me want to do another Tomer poster.
No kidding. Oh, come on, he knows color. He knows color better than anyone.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I found his work 10 years ago when I was living in Chicago. He did a handful of submissions to do an illustrated version of Life of Pi.
Yeah, that's exactly when I found it. That's exactly when I found it.
You found him too? Yeah. That shot of the tiger and the boat looking down. That's a little boy.
I have a print of one of them around here in a frame somewhere, actually.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, this guy is bonkers. He's bonkers. He inspired me when I first got started.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I mean? I was looking at him. I was looking at Edward Kinsella. I was looking at Matthew Woodson.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a Perry Ellis campaign that Matthew had worked on fucking 12 years ago.
Yeah, Matthew Woodson, Chicago fucking editorial illustrator at the time. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, and I right away keyed into him. His style was really modern and graceful, and then I followed him through his own personal art that came after that when he was doing sort of the sort of ghostly skeletal forms under the skin. And I don't know if you remember those pieces that he did.
Yep.
And then he worked his way into Mondo. And then he did, like I had the Dark Shadows poster. I've got the Man Without Fear poster is glorious. And that's still in the flat file too. And all of them. And then when I went to that first Mondocon, he had Under the Skin on the wall in your exhibit room. And I lost my shit when I saw that varnished, and I'm like, look at this. You don't even see Scarlett's face. You see the back of her, and I'm like, come on, this is perfect. Like,
so did we had Woodson's Under the Skin and Joao's Thin Red Line at the same Mondocon? That was a good Mondocon.
And the Graduate.
I just realized all three of them.
On the wall next to each
Melancholia,
other.
Dark Shadows, and Under the Skin are all kind of the same poster. Just this little weird solitary figure up top, walking away or walking towards you.
Yeah, but and some of mine are that way too. I mean, I definitely keep coming back to themes. But I remember reading Bono asked that he could, some of the stuff he says sometimes a little wacky, but like he made this statement about music, and he was talking about how like storytellers are usually just trying to tell the same story over and over again, and they just keep coming at it from a different direction, trying to tell the same story, and get a singular message across. And a great artist maybe only gets 2 or 3 stories in their whole life that they're trying to tell, and you can see it like in directors like Wes Anderson or Christopher Nolan, where it is a similar story they're telling in every film. Like they're definitely trying to say one thing. And I think that some visual artists too, you find yourself in a place where like you keep approaching every poster with a similar sort of theme to it because you're just trying to get something out, and you're just approaching it from different directions slightly until one day it's done and you can move on to a different story. But I think it shows up in a lot of artists' work and the movie posters that we do. Maybe that's Boulder Dash.
I feel like I tell the same story in all my artwork, which is I have poison in me.
Mine's that I'm lonely. It's a lot of that.
That's one of the poisons.
Yeah, it's a lot of lonely, isolated figures in my piece.
Paul, I agree with you. More Woodson posters. I will work with Woodson on anything. That dude is my favorite.
Yeah. Why hasn't there been more lately? I feel like he hasn't done one over the past year. Can I ask that?
He's laying pretty low.
Yeah. More power to him if that's what he wants to do.
I think I don't want to speak for him, but I think he is always trying to figure out, whether to do more personal work, more commercial work, draw rocks forever. I think he's always trying to figure out which direction to go in. And so every time we talk to him more, it's sort of like, yeah, we should do more Mondo posters. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely things on the road to happening.
Well, now that we've segued into some other artists, now that I've got all 3 of you on the line, can I ask some fan questions and get an answer or 2?
Sure, and then we'll get off of here.
Drop it.
Yeah, I know we got to wrap things up. Kent Williams, more in the pipeline, possibly, maybe.
I would love to. I think that if the right title came up, yeah, I would love to. Godzilla, we really felt like would work well because there's a lot there, right? Like you're not going to get likeness issues. You can use a credit block. There's a lot of stuff there. And I feel like if we had our biggest challenge with fine artists like that is always feeling like we have a title with a lot of artistic freedom. Mm-hmm. And because the last thing I want to do is tell Kent Williams, hey, here's 10 changes you have to make to something. So yeah, I think that if something came up and was right for that, absolutely, I would love to work with him again. I mean, I wanted to work with him forever before we did, and we got lucky because his agent is the same agent as Greg Ruth, and we're pretty close with him. And he actually came to us and was like, Kent would love to do a poster with you, and we were like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Did he choose Godzilla, or did you guys choose?
No, we did again, just because we felt like it had the widest, because it was part of that big show. It had the widest artistic freedom. It was pretty well decided that there was going to be a lot of different styles, and Toho was on board with that. So we felt like that was a good way to start.
And Mondocon, is there a potential that it could still happen a year from now?
Hope so.
We find ourselves in a better position.
That's the wish, man. I think we're just trying to wait it out and see what any events look like, 12 months from now. But Originally, the
Yeah.
plan was to move it biannually, so the next one would be, next year. But that's all.
I
kind
feel
of
like the online events that, like we've been getting by with over the past 6 or 7 months are starting to lose their luster a little bit. I think people want to, travel a little bit and say hi to each other and, be face to face. I mean, we all have to wait until it's safe to do it, but I think we're starting to really miss that,
Mhm.
I'm going the other way. I'm feeling more like Brooks, getting institutionalized.
Rob, keep that one.
Don't want to leave the library to keep feeding my crow.
But what other questions you got for us, Rory?
More Crow. Speaking of,
Yeah,
are we going to see more of the Crow?
sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Someone asked more Ruas. Yes.
Yeah.
God, I hope so. Yeah.
We
I think I've got every poster he's done with Mondo so far.
we
He's
just
got
got
something real good. He's got something real good cooking.
Yeah, we just got sketches from him like yesterday, and he sent 4 of them, and all of them are brilliant. So
Yeah.
super excited.
And can you share any with me after the call?
Maybe
Oh, yeah.
offline. Yeah.
I'll
Offline.
say this: each of us picked a different favorite. It was strange.
I'm
Yeah.
not kidding.
The 4, like when we get to that point, you're like, do we bother to pick one, or do we ask him to pick one, or do we ask the studio to pick one? Because no choice is going to be wrong.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
picked a different one, but then also all said, but whichever one we do is going to be great. So,
Yeah.
there's more Ruas. When's the A24 show? Soon.
There's so many great films in A24's catalog. You could do a killer show with that. Man.
Yeah, we're super excited. That's going to be, we announced it or we teased it during Comic-Con, but we're working with Mitch's other outfit, The Vacuum, and we are going to be celebrating the films of.
I'd like to do
what
some.
films?
I'd like to do a 5x7 show with you guys eventually. I know I've talked about it with you in the past. I know right now is not the time, given everything going on, but hopefully in the future it's something that, could circle back around in.
For sure. Would love that.
Yeah, please do Judy.
Oh, can we find Vanya and get a new poster? Man, I wish we could.
No, we ran Mitch off, but I guess that's his natural point as any to start wrapping this up. Rory, thank you so much for sitting with us, man. It was awesome to have you here and chat with you for a bit. Everybody, if you guys are interested, please take a look at Rory's beautiful poster for Parasite. And if you are so inclined, it is available as a timed edition right now at the time of this recording until Sunday, which is the 6th, I think, until midnight Central Time. You're here on YouTube, so do that thing. Hit the like button or smash the like button and subscribe and all of that stuff. It's gonna be fun. But hey, Mitch is back. We can all say bye. But thank you guys so much for tuning in and for hanging out. And we'll see you next time on the Mondo Happy Hour.
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you watching.
Thanks, everyone.